Hey everybody, welcome back to Charles Spurgeon for Chumps. My name's Taylor, and I'm with
Sorry about that, guys. Just got back from the bathroom. Who hit record? Why are we recording already?
My lovely co-host, John.
Taylor, no, we don't. Everybody, welcome to Church History for Chumps. My name is John Simon, a.k.a. the hottest free agent in the Baptist circles.
A.k.a. the mean guy who won't let me do a 12-part series on the greatest preacher to grace England in the latter half of the 19th century.
And we've got Mama Treadway's bestest boy, Taylor Treadway. How are you, man?
I'm good.
This is the one that made Tommy quit.
Oh, stop. Getting too Baptist for me.
Taylor was like, I'm doing Spurgeon by the end of the year or I'm out. And Tommy was like, you can do it, but I won't be there.
That's right.
Man, Chump Nation, you guys don't understand how much trouble I found myself in between these two. It's like the odd couple, but I'm just the houseplant in the way. It's awful. It's awful.
What do
listening
you
to these two fight?
Oh my gosh.
It is, man.
Yeah,
it's
last
so hard.
episode, you and Tommy were ready to go form your anti-AI commune with the sign that says "No clankers." While I'm like, I think AI has some benefits, guys, and you're like, get off my property.
All right, I think you're just a fan of any acronym. HOA fan, AI fan, SBC fan,
huge fan,
wow fan,
dude. I do love the acronyms. I sweat for acronyms.
Ew. All right,
dude. Well, we have to thank the listeners, man.
We got so a lot of you guys listen. You know, this big thing around this time of year is Spotify Wrapped. So we got a ton of screenshots from folks who were like, "Yo, Church History for Chumps was in my top podcasts," which is awesome. So Spotify does this cool thing where they kind of give podcasts our own little Spotify Wrapped and kind of shows us how we did. Man, 2024. No. 2025. That's where we're in.
It's okay.
2025 was like a great year.
Our stats, like I watched that video and our stats just kept blowing my mind. Guys, some of our stats, I actually don't think Spotify had a way to track it. One of them was like 999%, and you know that they just stopped counting. They were like,
they're like, that's enough.
That's
just
enough,
stop
guys.
there.
Yeah.
Just stop there. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And like there were like I think we get more comments in our Spotify than like 99% of other podcasts, which is amazing because we're not Joe Rogan. Like we're not like putting up Tucker Carlson numbers. But yeah, just amazed. So you guys who
it's
are
an honor
commenting, it's beautiful, dude. It's amazing. I have to do something, Taylor, and I apologize in advance. I've said this kind of subtly in the past. You know, we've done our whole thing about like, Ireland. We had a great week in Ireland this week. Or what was the Malta? Always pulling up for Malta. Here's the thing, man. Singapore
actually
was the second best listening country.
You guys killed it.
Yeah.
Everybody in Singapore, you crushed Australia. You crushed England. What else? There was another one they crushed.
The UK. Oh, you already said England.
We got the top 5. Point is, you guys crushed every other Western-ish country.
Yeah. So, that's amazing. And I didn't even know that Singapore was a city-state. I discovered that. Like, there's no capital to Singapore. It is Singapore. Like, the country is the city, which is the nation.
Singapore folks, can send us a message or something? Because I'm just curious if it's like one church that listens to us.
That might be it.
Yeah. The pastor's like, hey guys, I found these. Please listen. And then the congregation's like, okay.
What if it's like every Wednesday they have like Church History for Chumps study instead of Bible study, where they're just like, all right, guys, what do we listen to this week? Maybe the pastor's a big fan. Who knows?
I will say though, I was very humbled reading that. And if I'm sure you guys are curious, we always give you guys some of the behind the scenes. Essentially, John, agree with this or disagree if I'm wrong, but the show basically is doubled. And we have doubled in the last year. And I know that me, John, and Tommy are all blown away, very humbled, very grateful, and we're looking forward to 2026, guys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Follow us on.
Like to thank,
who are you gonna ask?
I'd like to. We got another supporter on Buy Me a Coffee. It was our good friend Elijah. He actually wrote a haiku for us to read. I didn't count the syllables on this because there's 4 lines.
7, 9, 4.
This one's like 6, 6, 8, 10. I'm not sure.
That's a haiku.
He says, I take heart because 5. Church history pod is warm. Maine winter is cold. Happy Advent and Merry Christmas. I didn't count all of that. I felt a good amount of warmth in it. I really felt loved by it, and I really appreciated it.
Thanks, Elijah.
Thanks, Elijah.
What's is it 575?
Yeah.
I purposely ruin it every time so that I don't actually know what a haiku is. Elijah, thank you for your haiku. I call it a haiku.
It's a haiku. Yeah. I mean, I think the haikus, like the thing about poetry is there's no rules. It's like music. There's no rules.
Except haiku is the one poetry that there's a rule.
It's actually a standard. Yeah. Like it's not supposed to be.
Follow us on Instagram. Like us on Facebook. Say hi. We respond.
Yeah.
Comment on Spotify. We got Jackson and LM chilling every week. Pick it up, guys.
You know, we'd honestly love like some feedback. We get a lot of love from you guys, which we can't say how much we appreciate, but we don't often open ourselves up to constructive criticism.
John literally cannot handle it.
Maybe I'm not sure I want to do that. No,
We got okay. Our star rating on Spotify is ridiculously high, but when it dropped down to like 4.95, you stared.
I noticed immediately.
You stared at the ceiling.
4.9.
Oh, 4.9. Oh my! You stared at the ceiling awake for weeks.
That's not true.
It haunted him, guys.
Like, here's the thing. Like, you don't have to argue with a thing we say, but you could be like, hey. Here's a suggestion. Maybe add chapter markers. We do add chapter markers, but I don't know, a formatting thing. How can we be a better podcast? People are often like, here's how you can be smarter and not so dumb, you idiot host.
So one of the things that we did listen to, because people would complain about our banter, and we started adding the marker for when banter ends.
Yep.
So
yeah. We listen. We try to listen.
We do.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to listen to everything we have to say. They're not even listening now. The anti-banter crowd's not listening right now.
They haven't. Yeah, they stopped.
Boo! You guys are the worst. Boo!
They stopped. That's true.
No, because they clicked past this.
They're already in the future. That's exciting.
Isn't that wild to think about?
Well, I'm excited because, I mean, here's the thing. If you don't have to be a Baptist to like Charles Spurgeon. It's like he's like the Beatles. It's like, no, if you like music, you like the Beatles. Right. If you like Christianity, you like he's up, in my opinion, he's like C.S. Lewis. He's like one of those dudes that like you can mince words over some of his finer details, but the heart is really hard to pick apart.
That's right. And so I know I opened with that joke while John was away. But the reality is I did have a conversation as we were planning these episodes. And I said, John was like, all right, well, who's up next? What episode are we doing? And I texted the group back. I said, I can do an episode on Susanna Spurgeon, which is Spurgeon's wife. And John was like, wait, what? Dude, Charles. And I was like, okay, what if we did like a series on Charles? Well, okay, so what actually happened was I said, what if I did one on Charles and then one on Susanna? And John was like, no, you can have one. And I'm like,
I literally said, let's just do both. Let's just do both. You just always want to make a series out of something.
I know, and let me explain why. As I enter, this is the cold open.
Okay.
How do you distill a man who he authored over 100 books? He's preached. We have hundreds upon hundreds, maybe even thousands of his sermons recorded. The man was a titan. He had charity work. His sermons were printed and distributed literally across the globe, translated into other languages. How do you distill that man and his life story, his theology, his ecclesiology, his ministry presence? How do you distill him into one episode? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out today.
Okay. All right.
So, okay.
Here's kind of a lukewarm open, if you ask me.
It was lukewarm. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing about history. And I'm very grateful for John, because John keeps me on the straight and narrow, because I'm aware that the vast majority of you only want to hear one episode on Charles Spurgeon. I am Mr. Nitty Gritty Details, and there is so much to be said about Charles Spurgeon that you could we could easily do an 8-part series. Easily. And you're like, that's insane. That's like 2 months of commitment. I know. But then also remember, I'm the guy that's like, well, why don't we could just cruise in the Crusades for like 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah. And we're not doing that. We're not doing either of those things that you suggested.
So I have the tendency to want to like super detail every little thing and dive into like every source material possible. And John keeps me on the straight and narrow. So John, on behalf of our fans, thank you.
You're welcome. Now let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Charles Spurgeon, if you don't know, he's the Prince of Preachers. He is, I would say, the prototype of kind of your standard evangelical, popular, reformed Baptist guy. He was before Piper, before MacArthur, and who else am I missing? David Platt, Matt Chandler.
I was going to say Matt Chandler, D.A. Carson.
I don't know. Is he Baptist? Mark Dever.
Carson might not be.
So Spurgeon came before all of them. So here we go. So Spurgeon was born June 19th, 1834 in Essex, England. Okay. He was born 1834. So put that, early 19th century. Now, do you know when Queen Victoria's reign started?
No.
It's 1837.
Okay.
So when you think of Charles Spurgeon, you have to remember the backdrop and what he was operating in was Victorian England.
Okay.
Okay. So just some real quick background. So she ascended the throne 1837 and she died 1901. So Spurgeon was basically alive for the entire reign of Queen Victoria.
When I think Victorian England, I think like Downton Abbey, right?
Yes. Well, no, Downton Abbey is early 20th century, I think.
Oh shoot, you're right. So it's more like posh, like everyone's wearing the big powdered wigs and
No, I think that was before.
Gosh dang it.
So just think this when you think Victorian England. So industrial and economic transformation. So England is shifting from rural agricultural to urban industrial, and to like steam engine, railroads, telegraph, all sorts of things sort of created this. But what happened is, so that shift makes immense wealth for England. But guess who got all the money, John?
The rich and powerful.
The rich and powerful. No trickle down economics here. And it led to like overcrowding and poor living conditions in the cities, which is important because that's who Charles Spurgeon is going to be ministering to. Now,
this is like the Jane Austen era.
I don't know who's Jane Austen. What did she write?
Jane Austen.
She wrote Frankenstein.
No,
that's Mary Shelley.
Pride and Prejudice.
And Zombies.
And then like the Brontes. No, gosh dang it. Our our memory of history is two ships passing.
Look, man, here's the problem when you jump all around is like we've lived in the patristic era for like the last year. Mm-hmm. So when you're like, oh, Ambrose of Milan, we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I remember he did blah, 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 blah. And now we're like, who's Queen Victoria? Anyway, this is also the time in England when Britain's power grew through imperial expansion. You love that, don't you? Good old imperial.
That's not my favorite.
Right. So that covered about a quarter of the world's population. There was a lot of changing and voting, social political change, voting rights, pushing to improve working conditions, education and public sanitation, those things. This was also when you had Charles Dickens writing and apparently Jane Austen. Did you verify that?
I did.
And you were right.
But she was about 40 years before Spurgeon, but not far. She died in 1817 and Spurgeon was born like 2 decades later. So this is close.
No, that's not Victorian English. That's fine. Just keep throwing out names. Eventually you'll get somewhere. Charles Darwin. So you have Charles Dickens, Charles Darwin. And you got like...
Oh, actually, that would be accurate, right?
For what?
For Charles Darwin?
Yes, it is accurate.
Okay.
I verified that one.
I got one. Bronte sisters. Let's go. All right.
What did they do?
Charlotte. They also wrote books.
Which ones?
Jane Eyre.
Franklin the Turtle.
Wuthering Heights. No.
Wuthering Heights. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that would have been Victorian.
Okay.
I think they were collectively born 1816, 1818, 1820. So that should overlap.
Mm-hmm. So here's our first key piece of Charles Spurgeon before I get into like the biographic details. So all of this change in England really led to massive social inequality. England's already operated, dare I say, on a pseudo caste system.
Oof. Yikes.
I know. It's like, did I want to go on record with that? I guess I did.
Hey.
They have, though. They have, and it like still kind of exists to the day. I mean, it kind of exists-ish in America too, you know? You don't have somebody from Yale marrying somebody that went to Pima Medical. I mean,
or someone who works at Circle K or something like that.
Right. So imagine that, but like much more exacerbated. That's England. Now, here's the thing that I want to point about Charles Spurgeon. This guy was the everyman's preacher. Mm-hmm. And if that's something that you probably heard about him, right, John?
Yes.
Yeah, and I would imagine that a lot of our listeners have heard that too. So Spurgeon, though, I mean, if you read his sermons, you can click a random sermon, and he knows his audience. We'll look into some of his sermons in a little bit. He knows who he's talking to, though. And for me personally, I think that is actually a very endearing quality. Spurgeon was not concerned with impressing the elite. Mm-hmm. He was not at all, and it cost him socially. I mean, the man could have been rubbing elbows with some very hoity-toity people, and it would have benefited him personally. But I mean, his heart was for, was it Dick Van Dyke's character in Mary Poppins, who was like, "Oh, I'm just a chimney sweep."
Right. That was Charles Spurgeon's ideal audience.
That's right, dude. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, Mr. Chimney Sweep, attending Charles Spurgeon's church and listening to his preaching every single week. So, okay, let's get into Spurgeon's early life.
So I like how you framed that, though. That's really interesting because the backdrop of England is there's all this prosperity, but all this prosperity is very, very top heavy. And I imagine, just before you even said it, that the majority of the preachers of this time are probably trying to appeal to the folks with the fancy handbags, right? Like there's probably not too many common folk speaking preachers out there.
The people that were educated were appealing to other educated people.
Sure. Okay.
Yes. I mean, there's probably a lot more to say. See, if you gave me my 2-month series, I could have given you a whole breakdown on London's
unfortunately
society. But to answer your question simply, yes. So the educated people talk to the educated people, and they let the riffraff deal with themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Very utilitarian, unfortunately. So as I said, born 1834. So the first 10 years of his life, he was raised by his grandparents, kind of out in the countryside, where his grandpappy was a pastor. And I think that laid the foundation for his grandpappy was not a Baptist pastor, but he was a Congregationalist. And I think that laid the foundation for who Spurgeon would become. So there was Puritan books hanging around the house. So Spurgeon was heavily influenced by the Puritans, which is, I mean, dude, we can't escape them in modern America. I know we haven't done our Great Awakening series yet, but when you just realize like how influential those guys' reach goes, I mean, even Charles Spurgeon heavily influenced by Puritans. So his grandpappy, though, there's a fun little story of him. He writes at length in it's recorded in his autobiography. So his autobiography is 4 volumes of tons of his writings where he's talking about his life. But that came out after he died. And you say, wait, how's an autobiography put together after somebody dies? Well, his wife, Susanna, and his secretary, who I cannot remember the name, who was also a pastor, those two, they worked together to put that out. So if you want some resource recommendations to read about Spurgeon, I would recommend the C.H. Spurgeon autobiography put together by Susanna Spurgeon. And then if you want something that's actually light reading, I'm dead serious when I say this, guys. This is a great Christmas gift for like your nerdy dad. It's The People's Preacher, C.H. Spurgeon, and it's by Peter Morden. And it's pretty cheap on Amazon. It's got pictures. It's extremely readable. This is like, and the thing that I like about this book is it's a very, very, very accessible church history book, but it is, it's written by a guy who is like, Peter Morden is like the voice for Charles Spurgeon.
Okay.
So he's like one of the experts. And so he's like
the scholar who knows about Spurgeon. Yes.
And he worked on this book that is like, dude, a middle schooler could read this. It's that accessible. So that's The People's Preacher, C.H. Spurgeon from Peter Morden. If you want to sneak in a last minute Christmas present to somebody you love who's into church history. So I have my fun little quote here from Spurgeon's time. Yes, here it is. Okay, so Spurgeon is a very eloquent man, as I think that's probably something you already knew, right? He was really good with words. He's kind of quippy. He's got funny quotes all over the place, wise quotes. One of the things he talks about in his early life is that there was his grandfather, before he would preach, if he had time on Sunday mornings, there was a little meadow outside the church, and his grandfather would walk the walking path in the meadow and just kind of pray and prepare. And little Charles was not allowed to bother him during this time, right? And you can imagine like 5-year-old Chucky's like, oh, what's Grandpa doing? Right? Grandma's like, don't bother him. And so he talks about how he viewed this meadow as like a sacred place. This is a holy field. So this is what he said about it. This is from his biography. I viewed it with no small degree of awe. I love to think of the green and quiet walk at this moment, but I was once shocked and even horrified by hearing a farmer man remark concerning this sanctum sanctorum. It'd grow a good many titers if it were plowed up. What cared he for holy memories? What were meditation and contemplation to him? Is it not the chief end of man to grow potatoes and eat them? Such, on a larger scale, would be an unconverted man's estimate of joys, so elevated and refined as those of heaven.
Oh, that's so good.
So when I found that quote, I was like, surely this is so funny that this has to be on like a t-shirt.
Right.
Dude, this is like this is just an unknown little gem just hanging out there.
That's a deep cut. I'd never even heard that one.
Well,
before.
yeah, but like you would think in like the Spurgeon world on the internet, at least. So, guys, let's make this quote. Is it not the chief end of man to grow potatoes and eat them? Charles Spurgeon.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like, I can't think, maybe C.S. Lewis, maybe Billy Graham, but like, as far as quotable Christians, he's Mount Rushmore. Like, I can think of so many quotes that I've just seen in so many different, I guess it also kind of helps that I sort of live in Reformed world, especially because, you know, when I was chronically online, I was probably part of way too many Reformed Facebook groups, but just like, I don't know, he has this way of transforming these truths to be like very quippy and fun, but also like piercing to the soul. I don't know.
Yes.
There's not many dudes who can do that.
I've got some more deep cuts for you.
Okay, I'm here for it.
On a little anecdotal note, raise your hand if you have heard the quote, "I take my text and make a beeline to the cross."
I think I've heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, I have. That's one that's widely attributed to him. And
is it not him?
He never said that.
Hate those.
He never said
the apocryphal Spurgeon quotes.
What's crazy is he's not like, dude, his whole life has basically been recorded. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And yet, you know, we got something that he said that supposedly an apocryphal quote. All right. I'm already running low on time. Not really. I'm doing okay.
Do your thing,
so, Spurgeon was, he was walking one snowy Sunday morning. Then one foggy Sunday morning. Is that how the song goes?
Just about.
And the snowstorm forced him inside a little Methodist church.
Okay.
And he was 17. And he sat in the back pew and he listened to what he will call basically a very unremarkable sermon from somebody who he's not entirely sure knew what he was doing.
Uh-huh.
But it was in that church that the Lord kind of forced him into because of the weather. You're this little old Methodist pastor rambling. But he was preaching on, it was Isaiah. I trust in
Isaiah 45.
Which one's Isaiah 45?
Is it look unto me and be ye saved?
Yes. Did you pull up Do you have
I'm just following along, brother. Don't you worry.
Wikipedia page up, John?
I'm just following along, brother. Don't you worry.
I don't need to know your sources. That's it, though. The sermon was on Isaiah 45. Look unto me and be saved. And Spurgeon, despite growing up with grandma and grandpa for 10 years, he would go rejoin his family after they had enough money to be able to take him again. But when he was 17. He heard that sermon and he said that was the moment he was saved.
Wow.
Yes. And so that alongside, his salvific experience alongside his Puritan readings, it's no wonder this guy became a particular Baptist, right? Which is another word for a Calvinistic Baptist.
Yeah.
So
yeah, is that kind of like a good way? Like, would we call particular Baptists? Is that pretty synonymous with like the Reformed Baptists? Like, were they London Confession of Faith followers?
Yeah, so Calvinistic Baptist, Reformed Baptist, particular Baptist. I think they're all very synonymous with each other.
Okay.
Now, what I would call, you have MacArthur, who's kind of his own dispensational Calvinistic, which
interesting. So most of these guys would have not been dispensational.
Absolutely not.
Oh, that's wild. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where when you get into like different classifications of kind of Calvinistic Baptists, it does get interesting. There's varying degrees of liturgical incorporation. So,
and when we say dispensational, dear listener, of course, we are referring to basically the theological view that still maintains the relevance of the ethnic and national identity of Israel. It's really just like this belief that Israel will that the literal Israel by the Jewish people will play some significant role in the second coming of Christ. That usually involves a rapture, which other traditions would not necessarily believe in. But yeah, I mean, when I think Baptist, especially today, I tend to think dispensational. So that's interesting that this tradition was not quite that.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for clarifying that. We do try to not use too many. I don't want to. My Sunday school class calls them seminary words. Like, Taylor, that's a seminary word. We don't know what that means.
Well, just some of us, you know, like when we were lonely and single young men, we just thought, I know what'll get the ladies: a little theological awareness,
a little reformed theology.
That's right.
You know, my dad makes fun of us. I swear, every time I see him, he's like, "You guys got to stop using your, my epistological framework for the post-Enlightenment."
And he should. He absolutely should make fun of us for that.
Thank you, Dad.
Because there's nothing cool or charming or helpful about those conversations. It's a stumbling block, honestly. I'll say it. It is.
Yes. So,
all right. So tell me about how this guy got into ministry.
Yeah. So he got saved, got baptized, and then immediately started teaching Sunday school and doing itinerant preaching and was handing out Bible tracts.
Nice. Okay.
So, his first pastorate was at a little church called Water Beach Chapel. And from my understanding, and I don't know how much of this is mythologized, part of the reason I love Spurgeon history is because there's not a lot of mythology that we have to, or myth history that we have to get into. But from my understanding, Water Beach was a kind of the city that it was in was rough. It was a rough city, but he, there was a revival in that city, and whether you want to say it was the Lord used Spurgeon or Spurgeon just happened to be brought to that city during the time of revival, but there was high crime, all of that kind of nasty stuff, and then that went away over the few years that he was preaching. And so Peter Morden records it with Spurgeon's ministry began with only 40 people attending chapel regularly. After 2 years of this sort of preaching, upwards of 400 regularly came. The space problem was partly solved by leaving the doors and windows of the building open so that those unable to get inside could hear. People say, well, we were bursting at the seams. And it's half the pews were filled.
Yeah, it's they had to use the balcony.
Right, the balcony had to get open for the first time in a few years. Yeah.
Right.
Which, you know what? Celebrate it. Celebrate that victory. But this was actually bursting at the seams.
Mm-hmm.
So he did that for a few years. And then eventually he got called to London. He got brought to... I want to make sure I say the church's name. It's very British. New Park Street. Wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Make sure it wasn't New Park Baptist Street or something. But he was brought to New Park Street. And it was there that Spurgeon would basically proceed to blow that church up over years. Mm-hmm. I mean, they went to, what was the name of the hall they were in? So they immediately had problems with attendance. So they went to Surrey Hall, I believe is what it was called. And then they blew that up. And then they had to, they bought their massive building that would become the church. The church would then become the oh my gosh, this is what I get for trusting my memory.
Never should do that.
Yeah, I shouldn't have. It was Exeter Hall, not Surrey Hall, and then they became Tabernacle something. I'm so sorry. Metropolitan Tabernacle. My goodness, how embarrassing.
And that was the church he's going to stay at for a long time.
Metropolitan Tabernacle is New Park City.
Okay.
Or New Park Street, sorry.
A little rebranding.
Yeah, right. Surprised they didn't call themselves,
So how did he get into? So he got saved, and then what? He got like discipled and
so here's the thing, man.
Promoted,
and this is where Presbyterians can kind of get you, where you're like, I don't know, this guy was.
What was the process?
This guy was clearly probably regenerate for a very long time before he responded, despite what he says. But I'm going to go with what Spurgeon said. I think he was being discipled his whole life, man.
Sure.
I mean, he sat around listening to his grandpa preach for 10 years. There's a cute little story of little Charles. His grandpa would talk to grandma about this old guy that just hangs out in the pub, and we miss him at church dearly. And so there's a story that Charles walked down to the pub. I think he was 7 or something, and yanked the guy off the bar stool and was like, "You're breaking my grandpa's heart." And the guy just starts weeping and then comes back to church and repents openly and stays in church.
He's doing the Lord's work for a long time.
Yes.
It sounds like,
Little Charles was being discipled. So he got saved and went straight into ministry. I think compared to what we've been looking at in the patristic era, that's a little extreme.
Sure.
Seeing as the Cappadocian fathers were like, well, you've been to school for 12 years now. I think you're ready for your first church plant in the countryside.
Right. And honestly, even with the fathers, it's like when you having a good and righteous reputation is just as good as, a bunch of degrees you could have on the wall. And I think that, even if he hadn't had this, quote unquote, regenerate experience, he was certainly a guy of really good and well-regarded standing. And that probably contributed to him becoming a Sunday school teacher and then a pastor.
Absolutely. And I think what needs to be noticed here is that he was probably immensely naturally talented. He was a hard worker. Yeah. There's no doubt about that he was a hard worker. People actually criticize his lack of theology on rest. But there's no way that at 18, or I think he might have been 19. Point is, he was younger than 20 when he took Water Beach Chapel. And then, in a few years, as we saw, it went from 40 to 400. There's no way he's not good.
Yeah.
Right. I think we like to think, well, the Lord was just working.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord could use me that way if he wanted. He could. And he has in the past. But I think that I think the Lord honored Spurgeon's very evangelistic heart.
Sure.
And I think that Spurgeon was good.
All right, I got a question for you, which hopefully I'm not jumping the gun. So he gets started off in ministry. He's got this incredible style that pierces to the heart and that speaks to anybody. You can be no education, lots of education, and still really pull from this guy. But I'm also seeing in my cursory glance at Wikipedia, which I feel fine using as a guideline because it's helping you follow along. It says that pretty much as soon as he got any notoriety, he started getting criticized. So, and it says that the criticism is pretty much recurring throughout his life. And I did know that was the case.
Yeah.
But where is this criticism coming from? What are people mad at?
Dude, I was going to use this as the close, but we'll figure out something else for the close. So,
okay.
Are you familiar with this? It's 1819 church or something like that in Georgia?
No.
I can't remember the exact number combos, but this guy, I got actually convicted because I saw the video clips and he dresses really casual. And he's kind of more emotive in his preaching, but this church is blowing up. And I saw like AP, like the Associated Press did a piece on him. People line up at like 6 a.m. to make sure they can get inside. And
this is happening currently.
This is happening literally this morning in Atlanta.
Wow. Okay.
And I thought, when I first saw the clips, I dismissed it because I said, whatever. He's dressing like a clown. He's getting all like, you know, he gets a little yelly. Not like too bad, but he's like
very animated.
Yeah, he's animated. And I haven't looked up this church yet, so if I'm wrong and it turns out they're heretics, whatever. But the point is, I started criticizing him. And then I heard his story, and this pastor on TikTok, he was sharing about how he wanted to go plant a church where the lost were. And the Lord sort of, through some circumstance, stuck him in Atlanta, and he was like mad. He's like, this is the Bible Belt. Like, everyone in the city knows who Atlanta is. And this is where I realized, like, maybe this guy's the real deal. He started seeing like brokenness and sin, and he calls it sin. And he started seeing like what was going on in the city and just in the Bible Belt where supposedly everybody's saved, right? And he was like, no, this is my assignment. And so, and like, dude, he preaches boldly, like really boldly against stuff that like culturally gets him a lot of flack. And so to full circle answer your question, who are his critics? John, I think you and I might have been.
Okay.
Potentially.
Because his style is very relatable, but you mentioned earlier that he's kind of the prototype of what evangelical Baptist preaching looks like.
Absolutely.
So
you and I being educated, you have a master's degree. I, Lord willing, graduate next year with mine. You and I being educated and blah, 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 blah. Think about what my dad accused me of or accuses us of. But it's not even an accusation if it's true, right? We are the people that would look at somebody like Spurgeon and go, itching ears, am I right?
Okay.
I hope to God not. I hope that we would have the discernment if we were in London at the time. But his criticism came because from people that were like, that's not how you preach. That's not how you do church. You just got a bunch of like idiots in the pews. And Spurgeon's like, these are my people.
Right.
And he preached like so passionately and kept them in mind. So now I am actually running out of time. I gotta move. You're good. So there's a couple, there's like 3 things of stress, major stressors in Spurgeon's life. 4 if you count. I'm not even going to get to Susanna. That's fine. Susanna, his lovely wife, had medical issues. That one of the pieces I read referred to her as an invalid at certain points. So she
that's awful.
Yes, but she's a powerhouse woman. As I already said, she wrote the biography or put together the autobiography, and she also had a very famous thing called the book club, where one time Spurgeon got fresh from the printer. He got his copy of Lectures to My Students, and Susanna flipped through it and said, "I wish I could put this in the hands of every pastor in England." And he said, "Well, do it." And he's like, "I'll be the first to donate." And he did. And then she went and raised funds, and they started a book club. They gave out over 200,000 books before she died.
That's so cool.
And a ton of other stuff. That. Okay, there you go. That was the Susanna Spurgeon episode in 5 seconds. But there was 3 stressors, not including 4 if you want to count Susanna's medical issues, but 3 main things for him. 3 main things for him. He had immense criticism levied at him all the time, and sometimes he was able to write it off and laugh, and other times it really, really hit hard. The second thing is the Surrey Gardens Music Hall. That's where I got the Surrey Gardens Music Hall was the second place that Metropolitan moved into. So at one point when he's preaching, there's like, is it 10,000 people? I think it was 10,000 people. Yeah. Never let me go off memory for simple things ever again. Because I'm like going over, I'm like preparing, and I'm like, I'll remember that. And then when the moment comes, I don't. Okay. It was like 10,000 people. Somebody shouts, fire, fire, while Spurgeon's preaching, and there's a mass trampling, and like 6 or 7 people died.
Oh, gosh.
That
was it. But there was no fire, right?
There was no fire.
So someone was just trying to incite panic, basically.
Exactly. And they did.
Oh,
and like
sucks,
7 people
dude.
died while Spurgeon was trying to calm everybody down.
Oh, my gosh.
And that wrecked him. That gave him what one of my friends at school did some research on it. And she's like, I'm pretty sure he had PTSD from that.
Yeah.
It was that traumatizing.
Well, I mean, like you're on a state. I mean, like you're witnessing like the carnage and chaos happening.
Helpless.
And I'm sure there's a part of him. Yeah, and there's a part of him. It's like this weird survivor's guilt where it's like all of these people are here because of me, and I didn't yell fire. But if I wasn't here, I wouldn't have gathered these hundreds of people who trampled each other.
So this is what Morden says. Although Spurgeon recovered, his life remained marked by this disaster. He confessed that he did not think he could have continued his ministry had he been involved in a second similar incident. Like it was that bad.
Yeah.
So he did recover, though. They would move on to get the Metropolitan Tabernacle built, which I think the Nazis destroyed. There was a fire in 1898. See, why can't I remember that date? But I don't. I'm so annoyed at myself, listeners.
It's okay. That's a great little anecdote. I love that I know that now, too.
There was a fire in 1898, and then the Nazis bombed it. So thanks, Nazis. So I don't think it's still standing today. If it is, it's not what it was, right? So Metropolitan Tabernacle goes up. And that is kind of when Spurgeon hits his stride. And that's when he begins the decades-long ministry process. Now, check the time. Doing great. Spurgeon had a very, very Baptist church polity, a very, very Baptist church ecclesiology. So he was elder-led, congregational, baptism by upon profession of faith, and you had regenerate church membership. Okay. And that was it. And so like you're wondering, well, how does this massive mega church keep track of church memberships? The elders would meet with people on Wednesday nights and interview them.
Oh, wow.
And I think
like for membership,
yes,
or just like,
yes, for membership.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I think they would have business meetings where everyone's required to like give a testimony or something like that. But they took the regeneration part very, very, very seriously. So that was like, you had to be, if you're listening, you're not sure what regenerate means, that essentially like born again. Yeah. So you had to be a real Christian to be a church member. Which was not, that sounds, I think, for your average Western Protestant, that sounds like, well, duh. Of course you do. But no, you got to remember, like, for 1,500 years-ish, the Catholic Church was just baptizing everybody in the country into the church.
So, well, and this was England, too. So, like, England had always been a very nominal Christian place, even under the rule of the Protestants. So, yeah, it was everyone was going to say they were a Christian, but then they could be a Christian and, be out, sleeping with prostitutes and getting mega drunk every night and still talking about, going to church on Sunday.
Which was the city that he was in originally that experienced revival. So yes, so that was kind of Spurgeon's ecclesiology, elder-led. I will say this as a short little anecdote. I would bet a lot of money that even though they were elder-led and everyone was an equal elder, that there was not a chance that his elders told him no. I have a little.
I don't know about that. I don't know because I'm speaking out of ignorance here, but wasn't one of the stressors that he did not get along well with his with the other Baptists? Like, wasn't there like some denominational?
You're getting ahead of the story, my friend.
I am. Okay, all right. That's why I asked. See?
That's right.
I'm laying you up right now. All right. Good.
Yeah, I don't think they would have told him no, his elders. I think Charles Spurgeon, if I had enough time, I could make an argument that Charles Spurgeon operated more as a bishop. I'm okay with the office of bishop, so that doesn't like super bother me. But like Baptists keep landing on bishops accidentally. They can't escape it. What is John Simon, answer me this. What is a multi-site senior pastor church operating as?
A bishop.
A bishop. Thank you. Point made. Baptists just keep coming back to bishop. And it's fine, guys. I think there's this argument to be made that bishops were biblical. It's okay. This is not a hill worth dying on for anybody. But I would say Spurgeon probably operated closer to a bishop. He's a good bishop.
That's reasonable.
He's a good bishop.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully.
I have this lovely quote from Susanna Spurgeon relating to Charles with all the criticism levied at him. No defense, this is after he died, no defense of my beloved is needed now. God has taken him to himself, and there the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary will be at rest.
Jeez. There's a lot. There's a lot of subtext.
You see why I wanted to do a whole episode on her? She's a great.
I get it.
She's a great lady.
No, that's good. That's really good.
So now to get into the downgrade controversy.
Okay.
In case we don't get to it, I'm just going to go ahead and jump ahead and tell you guys. Where's my notes on this? So Spurgeon dies in 1892.
Okay.
He does have health issues. We've talked about before.
Not an old man.
Not super old. And that's the downgrade controversy is probably what killed him, alongside his gout and all these other issues that he had plaguing him. He died at 57 in France.
Oh, dude, he was a gout man?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, look at that.
Gout of My Mind, featuring Taylor Treadway and Charles Spurgeon. The Gout House.
You're in good company, my brother.
Gosh. Yes. So suffered Spurgeon, so will I. So Spurgeon dies at 57, pretty young.
Yeah.
And then Susanna outlives him by 10 years. It's in that decade that between Spurgeon's death and Susanna's death that she gets out the autobiographies. Which is like, dang, man, for a woman that had like serious health problems, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, but let's get into the downgrade controversy. Charles Spurgeon coins the term downgrade in his Sword and Trowel magazine. So not only is Spurgeon writing devotionals all the time, he put out many devotionals. He's writing tons of books. All his sermons are being published. He's writing a monthly magazine called The Sword and the Trowel. Mm-hmm. Such a catchy title, isn't it?
Great title.
And he says that everyone else in the Baptist Union, if you think about the SBC in America, the Baptist Union is the equivalent to that in England.
Okay.
Partnered together for missions, but every church is autonomous. Well, a lot of churches in the Baptist Union, Spurgeon says that modern. They start following the modernist movement.
Okay.
Which is kind of the theological, like,
they're going woke.
Yeah, it's the great grandchildren of the Germans.
Sure.
I see. And now the modern hyper progressive church is the great grandchildren of that.
So they're starting to play a little fast and loose with the scriptures. Huh?
Yeah, essentially they were, scripture wasn't authoritative. Maybe universalism, just kind of adapt. Just think about like kind of general doctrines of progressive Christianity, and that's what they're going with. And Spurgeon would write against it, and basically weak leadership and I guess you could say sin kind of led the Baptist Union to fall apart. And that alongside. So, you know, he had the fire, he had the criticism. I guess you could say his physical sufferings was also up there. Physical suffering between him and Susie. And then you top that off with like this denomination that he's loved and poured his whole life into, just collapsing before his eyes. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So he said this. This is a good Spurgeon quote. Let them be liberal with what is their own, but for a steward to boast of being liberal with his master's good is quite another matter.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is what kills me about Spurgeon, dude. His wisdom is so timely. Like that transpires so well to what we're in today.
Yeah. And it does. And that's what I was kind of envisioning us talking about. So I'll hit you guys with another quote. This was from his devotional book. This is Faith's Checkbook. Isn't everything he names just gold?
That's good.
So this is really Faith's checkbook. And this was the reading for April 1st in Faith's Checkbook. And this was a quote from it. Let the reader never for a moment attempt to help himself out of a difficulty by a falsehood or a questionable act, but let him keep in the middle of the high road of truth and integrity, and he will be following the best course possible. So Spurgeon responded with integrity very consistently. I'm not an expert in Spurgeon. I have not found anything, and I've been reading him for a couple months now. I haven't found anything that indicates that he had any sort of moral failing or anything. You know how like sometimes we're like, Mark Driscoll's probably a Christian, but you know, there's some, you know what I'm saying? Like he says right things.
Few red flags.
Yeah. Few red flags. That's such a good way. Yeah. Like Mark Driscoll will be in heaven sanctified. Right. Like Spurgeon doesn't have any of that. And he had plenty of opportunity to. Now, I will say this. He definitely, he would be a little pokey at the elite during sermons sometimes. And I don't know how healthy that was. It definitely came across as like a us versus them sometimes. But I don't know how necessary it is. And like, can you blame him? Because the elite are the ones that are like all going liberal with their enlightened intelligence and, you know.
Well, and you got to think if it's the media, like newspapers that are constantly criticizing
they ripped him apart, dude.
Well, that's the elites too.
Yes.
Because they're the ones who own all the media.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would make sense that he considers the elites as, the ones who are kind of standing against him and against the purpose of the kingdom.
Yes, exactly. So he kind of went hard on them, but he went hard on sin in general. I found a random sermon from him. It was a vile weed and a fair flower, just randomly from the Metropolitan Tabernacle Pulpit, volume 24. Gosh, 24. And it keeps going. And in the sermon, he's kind of preaching against, it's on Hebrews 13, 5 and 6. And he's preaching on covetousness and contentment. And he goes pretty hard against covetousness and goes like pretty into, this is not becoming of a believer. This is a very serious sin. But then here's where I just love the man, dude. He says, where did I put that note? Never let me host again.
It's okay.
Here's what it is. So, many a man lies awake at night desiring to increase his income, not because he is ambitious to be rich, but because he is haunted with the fear of being poor. And he even will say that this appearance of the vice is the most excusable. So even as he is like going hard against this, he still has this kindness knowing who's in his congregation. Mm-hmm. And he knows that it's the working man who is possibly lying awake at night, stressed. And he's not being covetous because he wants to have more than he should. He's being covetous because he's scared that he doesn't have enough to pay for his family.
Yeah.
And so Spurgeon, even in that, is kind. So I do love, I really, of the last few months of studying him more, I've really kind of sort of fallen in love with his character. I think he's a great example. I will poke fun at him this one time.
Yeah.
This is a quote from him, and I want you to tell me if this makes any sense at all to you.
Okay.
The sugar of words is sickening if it not be attended with the honey of deeds.
If it was like the sugar of like sugar and cream,
yeah, or salt,
coffee or something like that. But yeah, sugar and it's a little. I'm gonna say a translator messed that one up for him. I'm gonna say that
he preached in English, my guy.
I think the editors really just did him a disservice.
Yeah, maybe it went to Taiwanese and then back to English.
Exactly, yeah.
Dude. I think it's so funny though, but you get the point. That's what's even funnier. Like even when Spurgeon just says something nonsensical, it still makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of Spurgeon, my friends, at a very, very quick glance. I do think though, John, it's worth talking about for a little bit, if we have some time, that the modern parallels. So John MacArthur actually has, if you go on YouTube and you type in the downgrade controversy, there's hardly nothing except there's a random clip from like some old documentary that John MacArthur's on. And it's like 10 minutes and he gives you about 2 minutes of history of the downgrade controversy and then proceeds to rant for 8 minutes about how churches today just are all emotional and need to get back to preaching the word. Like, thanks, John. Back to you.
He's definitely like this is what I don't know, like Charles Spurgeon. I mean, I really think the most impactful thing you said, Taylor, was that he really is this prototype because he is a bastion of truth. He's an everyman. He opposes the establishment. He opposes the liberalization of where mainstream Christianity is going. He's a Westerner, but he also he fought the right battles for a dude from the 19th century. Like he did not like the ritzy.
He couldn't come to America because of the anti-slavery stuff.
Yeah, like he's written quite a bit about how much I think that line is like, I would much rather I would just as soon dine with a murderer than I would with a man stealer.
Yeah. So the South, especially, he was afraid of coming to America and being lynched, probably rightfully so. They hated him. Funny enough, though, when he started preaching hard against the liberals, more American Baptists were like, well, I think he's all right.
That's awesome. That's amazing. He's also got this like flair of style where he has this very C.S. Lewis kind of wit to him. He smoked cigars. He drank whiskey. He was probably generally not a very healthy person, but
there's a story about D.L. Save where you're at. Save where you're at in your thought. So there's a story of D.L. Moody came to visit him, and he opened the door and he had a cigar. And D.L. Moody says, "My goodness, I didn't think such an esteemed preacher would smoke cigars." And Spurgeon says, "Well, my goodness, I didn't think an esteemed preacher would be so fat."
That's amazing. Dude, my favorite Spurgeon quote that has to do with cigars is when someone criticized him for smoking and he said, just so you know, and I'm paraphrasing because I'm going to butcher it. He's like, just so you know, I only believe in smoking what is absolutely efficacious for the glory of God. For example, I would never smoke 2 cigars at once. Like, And he has a line about like the smoke of a cigar ascending and being pleasing to the nostrils of the Lord and stuff like that. Of course, stuff that's like irreparably shaped the cringiness of some of the reform circles that you and I were a part of for a good while too.
I know.
I will say, when I'm so glad I was able to find this. When I was probably like 21, so still in college, maybe 20 even. I downloaded, like, it was $1 on Amazon, and it was a selected works of Charles Spurgeon ebook, probably like 20 of his books. And I'm just like scrolling through the quotes that I've highlighted, and it's just like I'm just going to show Taylor, not that it's going to matter for the listener, but it's just, it's so many.
Yeah.
It's so many. But like, again, just his way with words is so incredible.
I didn't know that you read him when you were younger.
I did.
That's great.
I read him a lot.
That's probably very formative for you.
100%.
I'm on a level with you guys, and I'm sure all of you are shocked seeing as I'm like Baptist Boy 9000. I really didn't have much engagement with him until just a few months ago.
Well, it's like his influence can be felt like passively too. Like, even if you weren't affected by him, your pastors and your professors and, you know, the dean of your seminary, all of them.
Absolutely. So here's what I find very, very interesting, and I think it could be a good academic project for somebody, not for me. I want to know if Spurgeon really was truly the prototype for what was to come in.
Oh, sure.
In the way that preaching and ministry would evolve. Because if you look at how he preached, if you look at his theology, the way he did things, I mean, dude, you could plop Spurgeon into 2025 and he would excel. He would thrive. He would be John Piper, maybe even more influential than John Piper. And I don't know if that can be said about very many people from the past.
Yeah. I think there was like a level of both. I mean, like, cause the Great Awakenings happened in the States, but I don't know. There was almost like I would love to hear from someone who's really deep, not just into Spurgeon, but into the religious climate in England around that time. Because I feel like Spurgeon really did kind of kickstart something that and I'd love to see how his popularity eventually came to the States, considering he himself never came to the States. So, yeah, I don't know.
No, these are all very interesting things. And honestly, all of these little questions are things that we could have explored in a whole Spurgeon series, John.
Well, we're not going to do that, and we talked about it.
We talked about this.
I'm going to read a quote, though. Because I could read quotes. Oh, gosh, I could literally. Also, lectures to my students, I had to read for my ordination exam, and I tore up that freaking book, dude. I couldn't find it because I just moved and all of my books are scattered throughout the ether. But I adore that book. I would recommend it to anybody. Honestly, I think if you've never gotten into Spurgeon, I would highly recommend it. One, because it's written to be, it's written for Christians who are also, of course, like in the ministry. So it's meant to be pretty like accessible for, you know, people who may not have a ton of that background knowledge, but it's also just really rich. And you can read just a few page sermon from him. Also, he's got 1 billion sermons online. Anyways, I'm going to read this because I love it. I am not affected by the death of Jesus as I ought to be. Neither am I moved by the ruin of my fellow men, the wickedness of the times, the chastisement of my heavenly Father, and my own failures as I should be. Oh, that my heart would melt at the recital of my Savior's sufferings and death. Would to God I were rid of this nether millstone within me, this hateful body of death. Blessed be the name of the Lord. The disease is not incurable. The Savior's precious blood is the universal solvent, and me, even me, it will eventually soften till my heart melts as wax before the fire. So good.
It is so good, man.
So good.
That's what I'm saying, man. You could plop him into 2025 right now, and I think he would blow up again.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quote from lectures to my students where he's teaching them about about preaching, and he says, "Preach to one point, concentrating all your energies upon the target aimed at. There must be no writing of hobbies, no introductions of elegancies of speech, no suspicion of personal display, or yawn will fail. Sinners are quick-witted people and soon detect even the smallest effort to glorify self. Forgo everything for the sake of those you long to save."
I love that. Yeah, what he also had such a passionate missionary, like evangelistic heart, which I think, I think he checks so many of the boxes for what really affected the people who molded us. Like, he was theological, he was Bible first, he was passionate about the church, and he was passionate about evangelism.
Right. I think here's the thing. I just came to this conclusion as we've been talking. I don't know if Charles Spurgeon did anything revolutionary. I think he just did he was not the first person to use gospel tracts. He's not the first person to preach, in a gospel centered way. He's not the first person to do all the writings, the magazine publications. I just think he did everything very faithfully, and he did it very well.
Yeah.
And I think that combination of things sort of like blew him up into what he was. But as we sit around and talk about him, like borderline in awe, right? We got to remember at his time, he was trashed brutally by the papers.
Yeah.
I mean, they thought he was an idiot because he wasn't concerned with writing like theological treatises or anything like that. He was just like a gospel-centered preacher who cared about equipping his people to just get up and go to work tomorrow equipped.
Yeah. I would also recommend Morning and Evening if you guys haven't picked that up before. That's a great, probably one of the Mount Rushmore devotionals out there. But that's a wonderful devotional. Also, I haven't read this, but I've been encouraged to read it, and I have good friends who love it. And it's called Spurgeon's Sorrows. And I think it is a book that is semi-biographical, but it talks through Charles Spurgeon's journey through depression and just the discouragement and difficulty of his life and the gout. And apparently it's really phenomenal. I've had a copy for forever. I have not read it. But I've had really good friends tell me that it's wonderful.
I'll
freaking read it.
No, I said read it. I own it.
But no, I have not read it.
Yeah, that's fine, dude. There's so much out there in the world to read and not enough time.
I know.
What if we just pulled a Greg, and Basil and moved to the middle of nowhere and just read for years?
We have wives, man.
I know. Well, didn't Gregory? One of the Gregs did.
Oh, that's a good... I don't know if they were... Was one of them married?
I think one of them was married.
It might be possible, yeah.
But that also might not have been a good move.
You talk to Brandy, I'll talk to Annie.
All right.
Actually, no. I'll talk to Brandy. You talk to Annie.
Deal.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you. Taylor, good stuff. Little Charles Spurgeon.
Charlie Spurge. See you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, you guys. Talk to you later.